I want to unpack for a second a teaching around tangled hierarchy that I learned from Dr. Amit Goswami, who is the quantum physicist who I've had the pleasure of interviewing several times on my podcast, Quantum Revolution. Some of you may know him from the movie What the Bleep Do We Know? He has definitely been a pioneer in exploring the role of consciousness in the manifestation on the physical plane, and really has done a very powerful job. Actually, mathematically has proven that consciousness is the medium through which we create on the material plane. So Dr. Amit Goswami tells a story about intention and the higher order, if you will, of how intentions manifest. Now, take this into context that when we talk about tangled hierarchy, we're not just talking about good and bad, which are very dualistic concepts. We're talking about the complexity of the conditioning field, which, as we just talked about, has a lot of stuff going on in it, right? There's the body, there's the mind, there's the emotional body, there's the physical body, there's, all the programming of the narrative that you're living that comes from the design crystal. There's all the programming that comes from the ancestral lineage. There's a lot of stuff going on in the hierarchy and the narrative of any given experience, any given response, if you will, to a stimulus. Oops. So Dr. Goswami talks about how do you manifest a green light? And maybe some of you have heard him tell the story, but it's a great story. It says, if we strictly go by intention, and we say, if you set an intention to have all green lights when you're driving, and you're driving on a road with other people who also are manifesting all green lights, that's great, until you get to the point where two people who are intending to manifest green lights come to traffic lights at a crossroads from each other, right? So if you're going north-south and somebody else is going east-west, and you're both intending a green light and there's a four-way stoplight there, the reality of the situation is, unless you're going to have a crash, somebody's going to get the green light and somebody's not, right? And so what determines who gets the green light? And part of what Dr. Amit Goswami says is that it's the level of conditioning that you carry that determines the influence that you have over your material reality. If your intentions are of what he calls a higher order, meaning if your intentions are more aligned with the inherent bias of the cosmos, meaning coherence, unity, and a movement towards a more evolved state of consciousness, if your intention is pointed in those three directions, you're going to have more control, if you will, over the outcome at the traffic light. You're going to get precedence or preference, if you will. Not that it works that way, but the higher your vibrational frequency, the more in alignment you are with life's intelligence unfolding, the more likely it is that you'll get a variation of whatever it is that you're intending in your life experience. Why this becomes important in the context of the healing relationship is this. When we walk into a relationship with our clients and our vibrational frequency is aligned with or pointed towards bringing people towards higher states of unity, higher states of coherence, and moving them towards deeper states of evolution and expansion, then the more we can override, if you will, the programming in their narrative, the better able we are to lift them up. Which means when we show up to work with our clients, we owe it to not only ourselves and our own sense of obligation and responsibility about our own lives, but we also owe it to our clients to show up in our highest state possible, in our most deconditioned expression possible. And so when we go back and we start talking about the complexity of all the threads and pulling all those threads and getting those threads disentangled and clean and aligned, we do well and we do better for our clients when we do it for ourselves first. because the person that then gets called into the healing relationship is a person that brings with them a higher capacity to lift people to a higher place. We know that vibrational frequencies entrain each other, meaning the highest vibration in the room entrains the rest of the room. We don't often talk about that. I think we actually often talk about the opposite. We talk a lot, I think all of us as empaths, about how harsh the energies are, how difficult it is for us to look at reality and not lose our vibe, right? To lose our frequency in response to it. Lower frequencies do not entrain higher frequencies. It's physically impossible. It's physically impossible. If you go into a lab and you do a physics experiment, the lower frequencies don't entrain the higher ones. The higher ones entrain the lower ones. And so rigidly adhering as best as possible to our own high frequency doesn't only serve our own well-being, it actually amplifies the space within which we can bring people forward. It makes us better practitioners. It gives us more freedom to lift other people up. And certainly, I think it's an important piece for us to just all be aware of, that our practice as practitioners isn't just about showing up in the moment and doing a great job for an hour. Our practice is also about us living in our practice, or living into the practice of consciously harnessing and calibrating our own frequency, and recognizing that as practitioners, of course, this is me with my son in the gate 29, recognizing that we have an obligation to stay devoted to our own practice of elevating our frequency, because it helps us help people better. And making sure that we nurture ourselves as part of the program, because the age of martyrdom is over, first of all. And secondly, you're not serving anyone if you martyr yourself. And that's just a gentle, loving reminder that we all do better when we all do better. And if you're not doing better, don't go in and just do your job like you're, well, I was going to say like you're serving food, but I have the 50-27 too. That to me is also a sacred act, so you're not just throwing food on the table, you're lifting people up. And if you're not able to show up in that high space, go back and make sure you take care of and calibrate your own frequency first, so that you can better serve not only yourself, but your clients as well.